Hello my little acorns and welcome back to my channel. That sounded cheesy. Okay, so today we're going to be doing something very different because it's Disability Pride Month, specifically July 26th. And Disability Pride Month wouldn't exist. Well, it would, but probably we don't know, but yeah. It would not be the same without Jennifer Keelan, and I'm going to be reading the children's book about her, which is very different from what I usually do because I just do like edits and like stories and stuff. But today we're probably reading the story of someone else, by Anna Bay Pimentel. Sorry, I can't pronounce names. And I'm going to be reading them to my friends over here, and I got this book for my 14th birthday, which was like earlier on this year, and I'm so excited. So let's start reading it. I'm very excited. It's called All the Way to the Top: How One Girl's Fight for Americans with Disabilities Changed Everything. I'm not even American, but I'm obsessed with this. I'll make sure you see the words. Jennifer Keelan may be small, but her voice is mighty. Yee-haw! Snowball responds, speeding up from a walk to a trot. Jennifer loves to go fast, but she knows she'll soon have less time for riding since she's finally old enough for school. But she can't wait to make new friends. She is ready to go! The school's not far. Jennifer rolls outside, down the sidewalk to the corner. But stop! A 4-inch curve is a cliff to someone who uses a wheelchair. Her grandpa eases her wheelchair over the curb, though the drop jolts Jennifer. She makes it to the building. But stop! The school says Jennifer doesn't belong there because she uses a wheelchair. Sure, the paragraph is being seen. Instead, Jennifer and her mom find a different school that says she can attend kindergarten, but only for the part of the afternoon, when lunch is over. As Jennifer rolls in each day, everyone is already busy. She has to figure out what's going on and how to join in. Since most kids have never met someone who uses a wheelchair, her classmates are confused and even a little scared. Even a little afraid. You'll never be one of us, some of them say, just casually drawing. Who points like that, kids? Kids are the only people who point like that. Anyways. Jennifer knows they're wrong. She's just a friend waiting to happen. But how do you change someone's mind? She's not sure, but she's not about to give up. Jennifer and her family hear about activists who are working to make sure people with disabilities have access to public places, like schools. They want to know more, so they attend a strategy meeting. Jennifer has never seen anything like it. The room is full of grown-ups with all sorts of disabilities. Some use wheelchairs, some use canes. None of them are sitting around and waiting for change to happen. They're shouting, laughing, and planning big protests to get wheelchair lifts on buses. They turn to Jennifer. Do you want to come? Yes! She wants to go! This is a picture. Downtown, Jennifer rolls to the microphone and she tells her story. She leads marches through the streets, chanting, "The people, united, will never be defeated." It feels so good to speak up for what she believes in. She can't wait to do it again. She is raring to go! She protests in Phoenix, rolls through the streets in San Francisco, waves signs in Montreal. The demonstrations don't always change people's mind, but Jennifer is used to that. Even when her neighborhood school finally agrees she can attend, she and her classmates with disabilities aren't allowed to eat in the cafeteria with everyone else. That hurts. But she keeps going. Love how the teacher, first of of all, that's just segregation. Second of all, a teacher is just pointing out there, like, that's segregation. That's not right. Working with other activists revs her up. Yet, she can't help noticing that her and her sister are the only kids out there raising their voices. Still, she can't leave all the protesting to grown-ups. She knows firsthand that children with disabilities get ignored too. So she keeps speaking up. Disability rights now! I like the sign. I love that sign, man. When Jennifer is 8, activists propose a new law called the Americans with Disabilities Act, or ADA. The law insists schools, governments, and business make room for all people, including those with disabilities. Jennifer feels like dancing. If it passes, it means sidewalk with curb cuts, building with ramps in addition to steps, and elevator with braille panels. It means Jennifer and her classmates with disabilities can finally go to the cafeteria with everyone else for lunch. And I think is that her sister? It says stop discrimination now. I love everything. I love everything about this. I love everything about this book. Hold on, let me just fix the iPad. Jennifer and her family watch the news for updates on the ADA, but reporters never mention it. She switches off the TV in frustration, wishing she could change reporters' minds on what's worth talking about. Instead, the Keelans get their updates about the ADA when activist friends call. Bad news. Members of Congress say the law will be too complicated and too expensive. They say it's just not worth it. Not worth it? This makes me so angry, man. Like, it's adaptation. It's not fair. They have to put like a lot of work to just go outside in the streets, and people are like, nah, it's not worth it. Like, come on, guys, these are people too. It's not. Where's the equity? Equity, I don't know how it's pronounced. Since the news station is ignoring people with disabilities, Jennifer and her friends are determined to find another way to make Congress hear their voices. It's go time! Her family buys plane tickets to Washington, D.C. This is the big part. And let's see. As they march down Pennsylvania Avenue, Jennifer has never shouted louder. What do we want? ADA! When do we want it? Now! There was a school presentation once, and I made it about like Jennifer Keelan and the ADA, and I made like a video, but like everything in that material is copyrighted, so I don't know if I'll post it. I might post it sometime, but there was a video I made to my presentation, and the presentation was like in French, so it has like French subtitles, and yeah. Anyways, finally they reached the U.S. Capitol, but stop! A mountain of steps block Jennifer and other people using wheelchairs from the building where Congress makes laws. Grown-ups slide out of their wheelchairs and start pulling themselves up the steps. They will make sure members of Congress know they are here. Jennifer's heart races. This is what she has been shouting about. I want to climb the steps, she says, but stop. The grown-up thinks you're too young. You can't do it. Jennifer knows this is not just about her. It's about her friends at school who were shut out of the cafeteria lunch. Out of the cafeteria at lunch. It's about millions of other kids she's never met who get stopped every turn. Jennifer wants to speak up for the kids with disabilities who aren't there. I need to climb the steps. She slides out of her wheelchair, scoots along the sidewalk to the bottom of the stairway. She puts her hands on the first step. She halts herself up. Tiny bits of dirt and rock dig into her skin. She drags herself up another step. The crowd roars. Reporters surround her with cameras and microphones, recording her gusty climb. I'll take all night if I have to, she vows, and she keeps hauling, dragging herself up those steps. She keeps going all the way to the top. Look at that picture. Breaking news. Handicapped stage crawl and protest step up the Capitol. Legolas act. I can't read that. Pictures of Jennifer climbing up the steps flash around the world. Reporters start talking about the ADA. Members of Congress see the news, listen to activists, and finally pass the ADA. Laws like the ADA don't change things overnight. Entrances have to be rebuilt, sidewalks redesigned, buses re-engineered, and slowest of all, minds have to change. So Jennifer will continue shouting and waving signs, organizing and explaining. She will continue fighting for what she knows is right. Jennifer has places to go, and nothing will stop her now. This was amazing. You know, I really like this because it reminded me of when I was way younger. Like, when you don't have it here, but it's KG1 and play school KG1 and KG2 is like the ages of like, we have schools at like the ages of like 3, 4, 5 here. Yeah, I was like school, and the teacher would like bring books, and she would read the books, and she would show us the image, and it was like kids books that looked like this, and that was really, really cool because now there's not kid books about just the wolves and the rabbits and the balloons and the birthdays. There's kids books about the story of how the ADA happened, and the ADA was signed in July, and that became Disability Pride Month. It's amazing. It's like, wow. And when I was younger, I wanted to be a teacher. Now I am teaching not just kids, but everyone about disability pride, and just that's amazing. This is amazing. So let's read the foreword that Jennifer Keelan herself wrote. This is what she said. Okay. I was born with cerebral palsy, which means that I use a wheelchair to help me get around at a young age. I learned that buses, museums, libraries, and even school that were accessible to my able-bodied peers were not accessible to me because there were no wheelchair ramps. Imagine not being able to join in your friends because you can't get a building where they're meeting. I felt left out, and I did not like being separated from everyone, especially my younger sister, Kaylee. As my family and I realized that people with disabilities were not treated as equally as able-bodied people, we decided to join the disability rights movement to help change things for the better. Like that, maybe. I participated in my very first protest in Phoenix, Arizona in 1987. When I was 6 years old. This was the first time I saw other people with disabilities protest for their right to be recognized as equals. At first, I didn't know quite what to think, but after carefully observing with adults at this protest, both my sister and I realized that people with disabilities had the right to be treated like everyone else, and that Kaylee and I did not have to be separated. As one of the very young children who got closely involved with the disability rights movement, recognized that I had a very important responsibility placed upon me. I wasn't just representing myself. I was also representing my generation and future generations of children with disabilities who also felt out as they struggled for the same rights as everyone else. It was this responsibility that had led me to participate in a big protest called the Capitol Crawl, a decision that a lot of people would say helped convince Congress to pass an important law for the disability rights movement, the American with Disabilities Act. I hope that by sharing my story, kids everywhere will see that you don't have to be a grown-up to make a difference. If you believe in something, say it loud for everyone to hear. The passing of the American with Disabilities Act was a big win for the disability rights movement, but we still have a long way to go. I keep using my voice to speak up for what I think is right. You can too. That was inspiring. Now that was some real inspiration there. So, like she just said, she wasn't just representing herself, she was also representing future generations of children with disabilities, which is amazing because I kind of like felt something there, because whenever I talk about like disability here on my channel, everyone like hearing my voice and they'd be like, oh no, like you're too young and stuff like that, but no. Like she did it at 6 years old and I can't. She literally climbed the Capitol pole at 6 years old, and I can't just talk about it at 14. Like, girl, you can fight for what you believe is right at any age. Any age, no matter how old you are. Like, you just gotta fight for what you believe is right, which is very inspiring from her, and it's a very inspiring lesson. Which I already said this. I had a presentation, and the teacher asked me to like make it about someone who's inspiring, and yes, I chose her. It was like I don't know who to choose from, but I chose her. On to the top. So this is a bunch of questions that have the answers to them over here. It's a bunch of questions and the answers over there. And the answers. So, what is a disability? A disability is a physical, mental, or emotional condition that limits how a person can move, sense the world, or do daily activities. Some disabilities are obvious, like stuttering or needing a wheelchair or a guide dog. Other disabilities, like hearing loss and social anxiety, are not as visible but can be just as life-changing. Exactly, thank you. Fighting for rights. Disability activists work to make sure people with disabilities can participate in every life. Like civil rights and women's rights activists, they often use nonviolent demonstration to call attention to problems and encourage change. I do that a lot, but sometimes I feel like I want to. Yes, non-violent ways is the best way, because if you take like a baseball bat and you write disability rights on it and you beat someone with it, that's not gonna work. But if you take honey and you write disability rights with honey, people are gonna come in and they're going to taste it and be like, delicious. Yeah. Use non-violent ways. You can't catch cerebral palsy. Jennifer Keelan Chapin's disabilities were caused by cerebral palsy, or CP. CP is damage to the part of the brain that controls movement. The damage from CP happens either before a baby is born or during birth. So you can't catch CP like you catch a cold. Not everyone with CP has the same disability. Some people with CP can't move at all, while others may have barely noticeable disabilities, like weakness on one side of the body. You can't catch a disability. I don't think disabilities are contagious. Disabilities are not contagious. Illnesses are. And there's a difference between disability and illness. Illness, you go to the doctor and you look for a cure. A disability, you don't really need a cure as long as everything is accessible. Sorry about that car. As long as everything's accessible, you don't really need a cure. Okay, next one is access for everyone. When you have a physical disability that requires you to use assistive devices like a wheelchair or a walker, it can be difficult to get around. Stairs without ramps, narrow bathroom stalls, and sidewalks without curb cuts at all pose problems. Activists use the Capitol Crow to demonstrate these barriers and to pressure lawmakers to pass legislation to make public spaces more accessible, like the ascenseur lift, like the lift at the subway, or these things didn't exist back then, they did not exist back then, and now they're becoming more accessible. I know the way I take to school isn't really accessible, but like there's always construction, and they're trying to make it more accessible. They're building lifts. What do you call it? Elevators. Lifts, elevators. Yeah, they're still becoming more accessible because you can never be too accessible. You can always be more accessible. Problem or person. While physical barriers pose challenges to people with disabilities, social attitudes can be even more frustrating. People may focus on a disability as a problem to be solved instead of paying attention to the person with a disability. Or people with disabilities may be treated with low expectations, as if having a disability means they are incapable. On the other hand, people with disabilities are sometimes treated as heroes simply for doing everyday things. They just want to live their lives. On the other hand, people with disabilities can sometimes be treated as heroes for simply doing everyday things. Yes, there was a TED Talk about this, about disabled people being congratulated for waking up in the morning and remembering their own names. Like, I am in English class, English second language, so we just discuss topics, and for some reason we discussed the most controversial topics, and there was like a story, and the story is there was a boy who wanted to play football, but then he like kind of broke his knee, so he was pissed, and then he was on an elevator, and on the elevator was a woman in a wheelchair, and she was like, "That looks painful, right?" And all of a sudden the story was so inspirational that it's worth putting in a book to inspire teens. And, like, no, it's saying, oh, just appreciate what you have, but okay. I mean, I'm not a person in a wheelchair to just do my take on that, but I think that's kind of inspirational, no, because all of a sudden the person with a disability pops up in the story, and all of a sudden that story is inspirational, which I said, hey, that's kind of inspirational, no, and there's a woman in a wheelchair, and then she pops up, and the story's all of a sudden inspirational, and there's a TED Talk about this. And you know that scene from K-12 where Crybaby says something about women's rights and the entire class is like, yeah, that was my class when I said that. I said, okay, the story is only inspirational because there's a disabled woman in it. And everyone was like, oh my god! Yeah, that's what my class looked like. Yeah, I'm gonna link that somewhere. Social attitudes can be even more frustrating. People may focus on disability as a problem to be solved instead of paying attention to the person. Okay, but the social attitudes, like, I don't even wanna. When it comes to the social attitudes, people are like, they say that they would never bully someone because they have a disability, but like you're doing it. So, We Will Ride. In 1983, Wade Blank and 19 people who use wheelchairs formed the group ADAPT to fight for wheelchairless on city buses in Denver, Colorado. The gang of 19 shouted, "We will ride!" and rolled 3 wheelchairs onto the road to stop city buses from moving. ADAPT protests changed the way changed the way reporters, lawmakers in Colorado thought about people with disabilities. It also paved the way for other demonstrations, including the Capitol Crawl, which focused attention over the world on disability rights issues. Jennifer's first protest was planned by ADAPT, and she learned how to be an activist from adults in the group. That was cool, and not only did it lead to that, I don't know if it also led to that, but there was like a sit-in, and it was about signing Law 504. Yeah, I saw that video, and in history class we were learning about sit-ins, and I was like, oh, did you hear about the sitting and like to sign the law 504? And the history teacher was like, what? And I was like, I'm gonna teach the class. The class is gonna know soon. I'm gonna teach the world about everything disability rights. A law for everyone. Americans with Disabilities Act, or ADA, protests people with all sorts of disabilities, physical, mental, and emotional. Because of the ADA, public buildings have ramps as well as steps. Elevators have braille panels, and TVs have closed captions. The ADA supports the effort of people with disabilities go to school, to compete for a job, to live independently. This is what Jennifer and her fellow protesters were fighting for at the Capitol Crawl, to be able to get their own jobs and live independently, to not be seen as children. Because yeah, sometimes I have like a childlike aesthetic on my channel, but like, no, just because someone has a disability doesn't mean you need to treat them like a child. The Capitol Crawl was a demonstration designed to convince lawmakers to pass the ADA by showing them how difficult it was for people with physical disabilities to move around in public spaces. The dramatic crawl up the Capitol steps was planned in secret. Adult planners told Jennifer she shouldn't do the climb. They worried both that it'd be too difficult for a child and that people watching her would assume adults with disabilities are childlike. But Jennifer wanted to represent kids with disabilities. That day, Lloyd Blank advised her, do what is in your heart, so she climbed. Here's an actual video of her doing it. It was in March 1990. It was cool. Help wanted activists. When activists see something unfair happening, they take action to fix it. There is no minimum age to be an activist. Jennifer started speaking up for people with disabilities when she was 6 years old. Anyone can choose to become an activist, no matter your age. All you have to do is use your voice. Start by talking to others about what matters to you. You have the ability to create change, whether it's nudging the world in a new direction or creating international news like Jennifer. And that was it! It's literally the most inspirational book ever. She's inspirational because she actually did something, and yes! That was amazing. So, and it's true, there is no minimum age to be an activist. Also, what she said about having her and her sister separated, which that they don't have to be separated, meaning we don't have to have segregation and all that. It's just this book is just amazing. So what else did she say? At some point when she wanted to climb the Capitol thing, and they said no, don't do it because you're gonna make people think disabled people are like children and are childlike, which is like not true. Children can be activists. It's not the people that are childlike, it's her that is not childlike. And another thing I'd like to add, childlike is just an aesthetic, just a way of enjoying oneself. Like playing with like dolls can be childlike, but like amateur is a completely different thing. Amateur is when you're basically like someone who is a childlike person that you should talk to as if they're a child. That's an amateur person. But she is a very mature person, and that is amazing. She's teaching young kids how to be mature people and fight up for what they believe is right, and that it doesn't matter how old they are. And I just find it amazing because a lot of people, usually when there's like younger people on this platform, even though I don't believe young people should be on such platforms, but when younger people are on this platform, people are like, oh my god, bro, you're young, go back to playing with your dolls. Like, oh, speaking of which, my dolls are hearing me talk about this. So, yeah. No. You can fight for what you believe in, no matter how old you are. And it just doesn't matter, and that's an amazing lesson that she teaches us. So that was amazing. That was amazing. So that will be the end for today's video. Thank you so much. Happy Disability Pride. Bye!